And we are live. Welcome to episode 3 of the FTN podcast, season 2. I'm recording this Saturday night around 10:30 at night. Week 3 of the NFL season has already kicked off on Thursday. I am getting this video out a bit later. Still got the Lakeshore Cup Power rankings, still got the AFC Club House rankings. That game on Thursday does not affect the rankings that I had as I created it before, and I'm did not adjust. I promise you, I did not adjust. Nothing on that Thursday game adjusted my thoughts of the rankings that I already had. That Thursday game, obviously, being the Bills against the Miami Dolphins. The Bills coming off of their slapping around of the New York Jets last week, 30-8. Justin Fields got knocked out. Joey Bosa looked like an animal. The pass rush looked like an animal. And listen, going into this game, I had high expectations. I'll admit, I did put a I put a few shekels on Bills minus 20 point, sorry, the Bills minus 20 and a half favorites. Obviously, that does not happen. The Bills ended up still winning by 10 plus points, but there were a few times during this games where it looked like Miami might pull it off. Tua had a pretty solid day. Mike McDaniels played or coached up a pretty solid game. Tyreek had some good yards. Jalen Waddle had some good yards. Both of those guys with touchdowns. Devon Achane was kind of contained, still had a solid day on the ground. But you could tell this Miami team came out to play. They wanted to play for their coach, and they wanted to get this win. But the Bills still pull it out. I think we are getting to the point now with this Miami and Bills rivalry and Josh Allen in particular. I think we're getting pretty close to that Brady Bills yearly slap on the ass by Brady against the Bills. And I think Josh is starting to do that against Miami. I think the signs were already there. I mean, going into this game, Josh was 12-2. He now improves to 13-2. But those two losses were in his rookie year in Miami. He had an opportunity to get a game-winning touchdown. Charles Clay in the back of the end zone drops a game-winning touchdown. And the second game was that Heat Bowl, I want to say 2 years ago, where the Bills had an opportunity to win. Isaiah McKenzie drops a ball, and the Bills, again, had a chance there to win the game, and a drop ball affected it. So if you take away those two drop balls and made those catches, Josh has never technically lost to the Miami Dolphins, and he adds it now. He improves to 13-12 or 13-2, has 45 total touchdowns and 10 turnovers. That is absolutely insane. I think we get another. I think by next year we'll officially be in the Brady Bills conversation where Miami is just the little brother that we were to the Patriots, and Brady comes in, smacks you around a bit, and keeps it going. It reminisces a lot of those years where in those drought years where we would start off like 4-1, 3-1, 4-2, and be like, oh, hey, maybe we got some here. Maybe we got a playoff team. Maybe the drought will be done. Brady comes into what would have been the Ralph, or we go into Foxborough and we get smacked around 33-10 or 40 something to 14, and they're like, oh, Brady's and the Patriots are like, this is child's play. You're just a filler team in the NFL, and I think Miami at this point right now is kind of what I want to describe as an NPC team. It might be arguably the worst situation of football. They hitch their wagon onto a quarterback that has no attributes that make him. He's not elite in any attribute. He has an average to below average arm. He has minimal rushing ability. He has a history of concussions. He is a timing quarterback. And obviously, based off the interception, when you get in his face or cause his pocket to collapse, he turns the ball over. I mean, hence the name, Tua turned the ball over. So I just think Miami right now is in that situation where they're in this purgatory, which I think the Bills were in the same stage in those drought years, they remind me now, now that I think about it, they remind me a lot of that Bills Fitzpatrick team where there was a spark. Obviously, this is a bit different because they made the playoffs with Tua, but I think this is the Bills Fitzpatrick team in a nutshell, just in a longer form, I guess you can call it. You got the smart former OC who becomes head coach, Chan Gailey, Mike McDaniel. You have the quarterback who has a history who wasn't that good and had a history with the previous coach or previous situation like Fitzy, and he comes in and looks like a top 10, top 15 quarterback. Tua got the big contract. Fitzy got the big contract. A defense that they go all in on. See where I'm going here? They go all in with Jalen Ramsey. They go all in with Bradley Chubb. And the carpet gets pulled out. Sorry. The carpet gets pulled out right from under them. Again, look what happened. The Bills with Fitzy, they started off, I want to say, 5-2 that year. And he gets a big contract. And same thing. Tua, they make the playoffs, gets a big contract. And so now we'll see what happens with Miami. This is kind of a crossroad where I think the Bills kind of go into the upper echelon of the NFL now. And the Miami has to kind of figure out what they're going to do, if they're going to fire their GM, if they're going to get rid of Tua, if they're going to get rid of Mike McDaniel. It's just a very interesting situation down there on South Beach. But from a Bills perspective, again, we're getting into the realm now. This is a point I wanted to get on. We're getting into the realm now with the Bills where the defense is affecting the offensive play calling. Now, what I mean by that is we have a subpar defense. I hate to admit it, but we have a subpar defense that gets lucky with turnovers, i.e., Terrell Bernard against the Ravens, punching the ball out. That ball never gets punched out, and the Bills are probably 0-1. Against the Jets are a middle-of-the-pack, bottom-class team, and the Bills did what they did. They flexed their muscles, and they said, hey, we're an okay defense, but we're not an elite defense, i.e. this week, where Miami was marching the ball on Buffalo. The Bills can't get a stop to save their life on third down, which I think is going to be a bigger issue that stems later in the season. And it was an issue last year, and I think it really poked its head out this week against Miami, where there were numerous 3rd and 8, 3rd and 5s, where it just quick ball to Jalen Waddle, quick ball to Tyreek Hill, and first down. And I think the Bills keep shooting themselves in the foot because they cannot get the opposing offense off of the field on third down, and I think that is going to be an issue later on. But on top of that, now you're starting to see the lack of a downfield passing game and the Bills controlling the hell out of that clock with the run game and James Cook. And the reason for that is, in my opinion, my tin hat theory is McDermott is telling Brady, you have an elite run game, run the ball and control the clock to keep my defense off the field and not expose our biggest weakness being my defense. And it can work against bad teams like Miami. As you see, the Bills beat Miami. But against these top-tier teams, these Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. You go to the NFC, you go to the Buccaneers, you go to the Philadelphia Eagles of the world, you go to the LA Chargers of the world. Against these good teams, you can control the clock, but if you don't push the ball down the field, you're going to get instances where you're going to get 3s and outs. And the Bills were getting 2 or 3 drives in a row where they were 3 and outs, and Miami found a way back in this game. The Bills had 2 drives that ended up with 3 and outs where they could have put the knife to the head, but they kept playing with their food and letting Miami to get back in. You play a good team like the teams that I mentioned, and they're not going to do what happened with Tua turning the ball over. They're going to get touchdowns, and they're going to put you in situations like Baltimore did against Buffalo, and it's going to be a 14-score game, and you're going to get Josh Allen to throw the Superman cape on. And I understand the conservative play calling. I understand you want to control the clock. I understand that the defense is subpar, but sometimes you got to flex your muscles like the Bills and Josh did in that fourth quarter against Baltimore, and you just got to rip the ball and go downfield. And I think Josh looked really good in that Baltimore game, in that 2-minute hurry-up offense, get the ball out quick and just get to your receivers. And I think we have to marry the elite run game and that quick pass and downfield passing and find a perfect marriage of the two. And I think that will be the final form of the everybody eats offense. And I think we'll get there, and I believe Joe Brady will get there. But I think we're at the point now where we're seeing that the conservative play calling is from the lack of a top tier or a above average defense. I think it's a defense that will beat up on bad teams and a defense that gets exposed against good offenses. On top of that, this is the second game in a row, a second time this year where the Bills pull out a Kansas City Black Magic-esque WTF win against Baltimore. Terrell Bernard Ed Oliver punches out the ball. This game, Terrell Bernard gets the interception. I don't want to go too crazy on this because I don't want to jinx it, but there's something there that wasn't there in previous years, and it's getting me a bit excited, but I don't want to jump ahead and yada, yada, yada. But again, let us move on to last week, week 2 in fantasy. Let's start off with, obviously, the results. Starting off with Fantasy Bean and Pacheco's Puppy Palace. I did it. 65 points last week to 175 points this week. I end up beating Riley 175 to 111. Drake May 26 points against Miami last week. DeAndre Swift's a question mark for me right now. I'll get into that after we kind of discuss everything else. But Jonathan Taylor, 30 points. Jamar Chase, 36 points. Ladd McConkey, only 10 points. Juwan Johnson, who I picked up in waivers, 15 points. Romeo Odunze, 31 points, which is I'm very excited about because he might be the number one there in Chicago. We will see tomorrow on week 3. Chase McLovin, only 2 points. I ended up dropping him. I picked up the kicker on the Colts. I spent $9.05 on him, but we'll see how that works out. And the Bills defense, obviously 10 points with the big week against the Jets last week, with Joey Bosa looking like an animal with the forced fumble and the sack. I'm super excited about Drake. I'm actually really fired up about my team. After week 1, I scored 65 points. And as you can see below, I ranked myself at 12th worst in the league. But now I'm excited. I will say I'm excited. Interesting news on Riley's side. Austin Eckler did end up tearing his Achilles last week against the Green Bay Packers. He has no running back number 2, and his receiver 1 and receiver 2 had mediocre weeks. I think there are better weeks ahead for Riley, and I just think my team kind of went from all the way over here to over there. But again, I still think there's better weeks ahead for Riley. Moving on. We're going on to Chimbas FC and the Reincarnation, who last week, Chimbas, I had at 4th, and to back, I had at 3rd, so 2 top 5 teams. And this was a top 5 team matchup. You had 122 to 133. Caleb Williams, 15 points, which, is still solid. Tabak ends up winning with Josh only getting 10 points. Devon A. Chain I'll start off with Yoshi. Devon A. Chain got Yoshi 25 points. Again, a soft spot on Yoshi's team, like I said, was running back number 2, with RJ Harvey only getting 4 points. Mike Evans got 10 points. Puka got 27 points. He's looking like he's going to finish as a top 10 receiver in fantasy. Sam Laporta only got 5 points. Smith and Jigba ended up getting 20 points. I think he's going to be arguably a top 5 receiver in fantasy. Boswell and then the Niners defense. And on the other hand, Tabak's team, I mean, it's looking solid, dude. Josh Allen had a very pedestrian week, but Alvin Kamara 16 points, Jahmyr Gibbs 20 points, Devontae Adams 22 points, Deebo Samuel 17 points, Brock Bowers 8 points, Jalen Warren 17 points, and then preseason I knocked Tabak's team for a lack of a flex position. I didn't think Jalen Warren would be what he is, but 17 points, 15 plus points the past 3 weeks. He looks like a very solid flex option. On top of that, the Ravens defense got 13 points, and Harrison Butker got 7 points. A pretty close-up matchup, and a matchup of what I believe is probably still 2 top 5 teams, but we'll get into that later with the power rankings for this week. Moving on to receiver Grim Reaper versus Jaw Rockers. Pedro's team kind of had a bounce-back week, scored 100 points. Bo Nix with 20 points. David Montgomery with 13 points. Henderson with 6. Nico Collins with 14. Brian Thomas with 8. Noah Fant with 5. Jacoby Myers with 12. Joey Sly with 17. And the Packers defense with 5. The running back issue is still going to be an issue with Pedro, with having the backup Lions running back as with obviously Montgomery and Henderson, who right now is still not that number one solidified bona fide running back with the Patriots. Still a solid receiver core. Brian Thomas Jr. looks a bit off, so we'll see what happens there. But still, Nico Collins and Jacoby Myers are going to be 2 solid options week to week. And then Joe Rockers just had a solid week. Loses Joe Burrow for probably say till December, so it's going to be interesting to see what he does there. He does have Dak on his bench, so keep that in mind. He still can rebound. But Kyron Williams, 10 points. Breece Hall, 5 points. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 40 points. Abuke, 12 points. Tyler Kraft, 24 points. Etienne, 16 points. Brandon Aubrey, 20 points. And the Commanders' defense, 2 points. Travis Etienne, he has a solid 300 monster there with Kyron, Breece Hall, and Travis Etienne. And I think it really helped this week, as well as Amon-Ra St. Brown. But again, I think from going what I had him at 8th last week, I think we will definitely see a rise with him and Jaw Rockers. And I think receiver Grim Reaper, we will see what happens there. Moving on, matchup of the week, the trade, which was X and Hookem getting Josh Jacobs, where Jelking or Divine ends up getting, from what I understand, Javonte Williams, Tyreek Hill, and J.K. Dobbins. Divine pulls up the victory by just 6 points. I mean, X's team did solid. Guy got 14 with Kyler Murray. Josh Jacobs got 14 points. Bucky Irvin with 18. George Pickens 17. Malik Neighbors 37 points. Dalton Kincaid 7. Hampton is where it got a letdown for him with only 4 points. But again, brighter days ahead. It will still keep on going. Divine's team with 141, with Lamar with 26. Chuba Hubbard with 18. Bijan Robinson with 19, Tyreek with 16, Devontae with 10, Travis with 10, Javonte Williams with 25, Jake Bates with 10, and Pittsburgh with 5. I think the jury is still out on that trade, depending what Tyreek and Javonte are week to week. I mean, Javonte's been solid. He looks like the number one back for the Cowboys. But again, I think this jury's still out. Josh Jacobs has the potential to still be a top 5 back in fantasy, but we'll see how the trade works out. Divine ends up squeaking the win this week and moves to 2-0 on the season. Then you got the former champ meat spinners against Bump Nation. Just a gritty 102-78 fest. Jaden Daniels with 19 points for Max. McCaffrey with 22, Chase Brown with 8, Marvin Harrison Jr. with 5, McMillan with 16, Evan Ingram with 2, Zay Flowers with 14, Prater, the fill-in-the-blank, with 14, and Denver Broncos defense with nada. Then Bump Nation pulls out with 10 with Jalen Hurts, Kenneth Gainwell as the running back 2 with 6. Alshon Jenti as running back number 1 with 7. Terry McLaurin with 10. CeeDee Lamb with 20. Hawkinson with 2. Marquise Brown with 8. Dicker the kicker with 8. And Cincinnati defense with 5. Still question marks with Bump Nation, but Meat Spinners does move to 2-0 on the season. And the final matchup of the week, Nightcrawler against Aftermath Records. And Abdul pulls it out against Greek Attack. Tasso finishes it off with Mahomes with 22, Derrick Henry with 2, Kenneth Walker with 8, T. Higgins with 14, Drake London with 5, and Mark Andrews with 2, Courtland Sutton with 2, Fairbairn with 9, Cowboys defense with 1. On the flip side, Abdul finishes it off the week with Baker with 19, Saquon with 17, Jimbo with 26, DK Metcalf with 11, Garrett Wilson with 9, Kyle Pitts with 7, Booty with 8, or Boutte, or whatever the hell his name is. I'm going to call him Booty because that's what it looks like, with 8, Dan Carlson with 11, and the Rams defense with 8. So that is week 2 in the books. Take a look before I get into the power rankings. This is what I had last week before week 2. Meat Spinners at 1, Aftermath at 2, Reincarnation at 3, Chimbus at 4, Gel King at 5, Nightcrawler at 6, Hook'em at 7, Jaw Rockers at 9, Bump Nation at 9, Jaw Rockers at 8, Grim Reaper at 10, Pacheco's Puppy Palace at 11, and myself, Fantasy Bean, at 12, after I had an all-time 65 points in week 1. But let's move it on to the power rankings for going into week 3. So we'll call it week 2. Starting off at number 12. Oh, sorry, guys. Wrong one. Starting off at number 12. Receiver, Grim Reaper. Lack of a running back. You got nothing, dude. Like, your receiver room is great, but your running back options are very slim until Henderson becomes that alpha in New England. And, I mean, Derek Montgomery's going to be a solid running back number 2, but you have no number 1 running back. And I just think playing the musical chairs with receivers is not a good longevity piece. I think you got to move some receivers to get a running back, but that is just my opinion. Going on to number 11, Bump Nation. You got a solid team lined up. The only issue, running back number 2, you got to find someone to replace Kenneth Gainwell. If you get a solid running back number 2, you are going to shoot up in these power rankings. Coming in at number 10, that would be Pacheco's Puppy Palace. Losing Austin Eckler also puts you in a situation, Riley, where you got no backup running or no running back number 2. And I think you got to either move A.J. Brown and Justin Jefferson and get a solid receiver 2 and a running back 2 to kind of disperse having 2 alpha dog receivers and get an alpha like keep an alpha like Jefferson, move A.J. Brown for a running back 2, receiver 2, and kind of just have depth, I guess you could say. Because right now it's going to be tough to win weeks with no running back 2, and it sucks with what happened with Eckler. Coming in at number 9, that would be Nightcrawler. I said it last week. You had a good week last week, Tasso, with obviously Derrick Henry having 30 points, Mahomes with 26. This week, pedestrian weeks from your players, and kind of just you have a solid team as a whole, but I just think you're lacking those home run week in and week out guys. I mean, it could win you a championship, but we will see what happens there. Coming at number 8, Hook'em. In my opinion, X and Tasso were kind of interchangeable. I think X kind of has the upside with having obviously that of Pickens looking pretty solid, Josh Jacobs looking solid. I think having Kyler at quarterback is solid, but I think I gave X the edge because Hampton is playing like ass, but I still think in the long run, Hampton is going to have a higher upside, and having a 3-headed monster of Hampton, Josh Jacobs, and I believe Oh, why can I? Let me put it up on my phone here. I believe it's Hampton, Josh Jacobs, and whoever his other running back is. The potential there of having a three-headed monster like that is greater than what Tasso has with the good depth, but a lack of a real start. I'm pulling it up on my phone here. And Bucky Irvin. That would be a crazy three-headed monster once Hampton kind of takes over that number one role in LA. Moving on to number 7, Jaw Rockers. Listen, I would have had you higher, but the loss of Joey Burrow hurts. Dak Prescott could be solid. Tucker Kraft was a great pickup. He looks like he could be very good for your team. I think Travis Etienne is going to be good, and I think Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think you got a three-headed monster with Etienne if he continues this, Kyron Williams and Breece Hall. The only thing is, Mbuke has been solid, but he has been very touchdown dependent. You take away those touchdowns, and he's been a very mediocre receiver, so we'll see what happens there. But for that, I got to keep you at number 7. Coming in at number 6, Chimbas FC. I am eating my words, brother Yoshi. You got a solid team. A-Chain looks good. Puka and Smith and Jigba. You might have 2 top 5 fantasy receivers, and that might just alone carry you to the finals if you're getting 20 plus points from your receivers week in and week out. Coming in at number 5, I had to do it. 12 last week, 5 this week. Fantasy Bean, I'm feeling good. I scored 175 points, but I'm feeling good about my team. Drake May, I think he's going to be, his floor is 15. His ceiling is obviously 26. And I think if I can get 15 points every week from him, I am not going to complain. Still questionable about DeAndre Swift. I do have Bill and Judkins on the bench, so we might getting to the point where Swift gets a benching if Bill and Judkins has a solid week. I think now with the Eckler injury especially, it could be very interesting. But I love my three-headed monster now of Jamar Chase, Lad McConkey, and Odunze if Odunze keeps it up. I mean, I could be eating my words this week and have another crappy week, but I think Jawan Johnson kind of is a Band-Aid for my lack of a tight end. And right now I feel really good about my team. I got Worthy on the bench, who's going to come back at one point. I got Judkins and Bill on the bench as well, and I have Jerry Jeudy as well. So, I mean, I got good depth. I got a solid receiving core. I got some solid running backs. I took a chance with Judkins and Bill, and that might work out for me, but we will see what happens in the long run. Coming in at number 4, the reincarnation, a guy who in preseason I had, I believe, at 11, comes in and just tells me to go F myself. Tabak's team, first place, 2-0. You got Josh Allen, you got Alvin Kamara, you got Jahmyr Gibbs, you got Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, and I think Jalen Warren, if he keeps this up, could be a steal pick for you. You just got a solid team that's going to get you 110 plus points a week, and I just think having Josh is just going to be a cheat code for you. But coming in at number 3, Meat Spinners, you fell down, brother. The only reason for this is you still got a solid team. You're still top 3, but you do have injuries that are going to affect you. You don't have a tight end. I think, you just picked up Zach Ertz. But again, still a very solid team. Jordan Mason, who could be your number 1. I think now with Jaden Daniels injured and you going with Sam Darnold, it could fall apart on you, but we will see what happens there. Coming in at number 2, Gel King. After that trade, Divine, I'm not even looking at my phone because you just got a solid-ass team. Tyreek looks pretty solid. Javonte Williams, if he keeps this up, you are going to fleece X with that trade. But keyword keeps it up with Javonte. We will see what happens there. But as of right now, I got you a second best in the league. And reclaiming the number 1 spot after being knocked out of it last week, got to go with Aftermath Records. Solid-ass team from up to down. Jimbo looks like a top 5 running back, and you got depth everywhere. You got backups for the backups, like I said, and just a great team all around. So, those are my Week 2 Lakeshore Cup fantasy rankings. Number 1, Aftermath Records, Gel King at 2, Meat Spinners at 3, The Reincarnation at 4, Fantasy Bean at 5, Chimbas FC at 6, Jaw Rockers at 7, Hook'em at 8, Nightcrawler at 9, Pacheco's Puppy Palace at 10, Bump Nation at 11, Receiver Grim Reaper at 12. A lot of movement. I mean, it's a week-to-week league. Fantasy is a week-to-week thing. I went from 12 to 5. I could knock my way all the way back up to 12 this week, depending on what happens. So tune in next week to see where we are at. But moving on from the Lakeshore Cup Power Rankings, let us end off the episode with the AFC Clubhouse rankings. Because, listen, I enjoy the Lakeshore Cup rankings, but I also enjoy these AFC Clubhouse rankings. And if this is your first time explaining or knowing about it, what it is, I love golf. I love football. Everyone does, obviously, reverse or WGR, who I listen to, which is a local radio sports station in Buffalo. I get it out here in Toronto. They do every Wednesday with Shope and the Bulldog, which is their afternoon show. They do a reverse AFC Power Rankings, which is something different. What do you call it? Another podcast I listen to, Part of My Take. Big Cat does his NFL Power Rankings, which is kind of a joke, or his NFL tier list, which is kind of a joke, but also a tier list. Everyone's got tier lists. Everyone's got power rankings. And I thought, what can I do that's different? Well, golf, how it works is you have a leaderboard. You have people who are par, you have minus par, you have above par. And I kind of meshed it's kind of a tier list as well as a power ranking into one. And I started it last week, and I'm going to keep on going with it for the rest of the week. And these are the official Week 2 AFC Clubhouse leaders. Even with the Thursday night game, it's not going to adjust it because, again, in my opinion, still won't adjust it, and I'll explain to you why. But starting it off at number 12, I kind of spoiled it earlier by pressing the wrong scene. But still, at number 16, after Week 2, at +4, they were +5 last week. At +4 is the Miami Dolphins. Bad situation overall, might be the worst situation in football. I touched on this earlier, but hitching your wagon onto a quarterback like Tua is not going to work out. It obviously has not worked out. Do I think Mike McDaniel is going to get fired? Last week, if you asked me, I said yes. This week, I don't know, because if that game was a blowout on Thursday, yes. But they kept it close. It looks like the team was playing for McDaniel. And it looks like, I don't know if it's just me, but it looks like the frustration is with Tua and the receivers and the GM, Will Greer, who's been there for, I didn't realize this, but for almost 8 or 10 years. And I think McDaniel survives the year, but I think the Dolphins try to figure out a way of get out of Tua, and I think they fire the GM and give Mike McDaniel another year with a different quarterback. But that's just my opinion. They move up from +5 to +4 and still hold that 16th slot. Coming in at number 14 and 15, you got, sorry guys. There we go. We're just going to do 14 and 15. You got the Tennessee Titans at +4, and you got the Cleveland Browns at +3. Cleveland's going to be a tough team to play, but they're in a situation where you got to put in Shador or you got to put in one of these other guys. Like, it's Joe Flacco, but you're going to be competitive, but see what you got at quarterback, get with Gabriel Dillon or Shador Sanders, and see what you got there. Tennessee, still a good young quarterback, but again, that's all you really got going for you, so I had to kind of put you on the same tier as Miami. Then moving on to the 11th spot, New England Patriots and Las Vegas Raiders. Vegas looked like ass against the LA Chargers. Had to leave them at +2. The Patriots got Drake May going for them. They beat Miami. Vibes are Vrabel's kind of getting those vibes going. Diggs, again, people said he's a bad teammate. It is what it is, but I still think Diggs is a solid quarterback or solid wide receiver, and I think he's going to be a good piece for Drake May, and I just think the vibes in New England bring him up to kind of this team that's not middle of the pack, but good vibes, a win against a division opponent, and it's just, I think just at +2, you got to give them that. And I mean, the Patriots could have been 2-0, but they lost to the Raiders, so I kind of put them on the same tier there, both at +2. Moving on to +1 teams that could be a playoff team, but right now I got to see a bit more. You got Jacksonville, Houston, New York, or the New York Jets and Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh loses to Seattle, puts up, I think, 8 points or something like that. The Jets get dismantled by the Bills. Houston, the red zone, they have no red zone offense, and I mean, their defense will play tough. CJ Stroud will get the ball down the field, but they just stall out all the time, and you can't be a top tier team if you can't punch in points in the red zone. And Jacksonville, you lost to Jake Browning and the Cincinnati Bengals, and there's some issues there. I think Trevor Lawrence is kind of a very mid-tier quarterback. Brian Thomas Jr., there was 2 or 3 routes where he kind of pulled up from catching the ball because Trevor Lawrence gave him hospital balls. So the vibes there are kind of weird. And I just think that these 3 teams kind of bunch themselves into the same tier of could be a wild card team, could also see them not being a wild card team, and the wheels falling off very quickly. Then moving in to the 5th spot, you got the teams that are at even, teams that are fighting for the wild card positions. I think Indy and I think Denver is going to be there. I think if Cincinnati can hold on with Jake Browning, they will be there come December in a wild card position. But I think the AFC picture is kind of forming to what it's going to be. I think Indy is going to be for real with Daniel Jones. I just think it will be a lot of Sam Darnold last year where he doesn't lose them games. And some games he might win them, but he's never going to lose them a game. And I think that will get him to like a 10-6 record like a 10, or I guess it would be 11-6 record or a 10-7 record. Something that will get them in a wild card position. Same with Denver. I think the defense there is so good, and I think Bo Nix will swing the ball enough, and I think have faith in Sean Payton's system that they won't lose games in spite of Bo Nix, but they will win games with that defense and a mediocre day from Bo Nix week in and week out. And like I said, Cincy, if they can get Jake Browning playing at that level every week and hold on till Joey B gets back, they will be a wild card team. But the top 4, pretty much unchanged from last week. In the number 4 position, the Kansas City Chiefs at -1. They're the Chiefs. Like, you can't knock them. They're the Chiefs. You got to give them their flowers. But they look stale. They look off. Something looks off with them. Can't push the ball down the field. Mahomes looks like he's forcing every pass down the field and trying to throw it deep. The receivers can't get separation. The receivers can't get catches. They'll zombie walk into the playoffs, but I don't think they'll be the Chiefs of years past. Still think they'll cause issues, but I do believe that they might not win the division. But we will see what happens. Don't want to get ahead of myself. But I got the LA Chargers at number 3. At -3, I think there is a gap now in between them and the rest of the pack. I just think the Chargers with Justin Herbert look solid. 2 pretty solid running backs. I mean, 3 solid receivers. A solid-ass defense. A coach who has been to the Super Bowl and has won a national championship in the league. Has a history of being a winning coach. You got Greg Roman, an offensive coordinator, who has been a history of running the ball, but is developing and adjusting to what the rest of the league is. I just think that they're going to cause some noise in the playoffs, and I just think that at number 3, they're a tier above the Chiefs right now, and I think they have a chance to win the division, and I think this kind of 3 is setting themselves apart from the rest of the AFC. We'll see with the Chiefs what happens, but I think right now there is a gap between the Chiefs and the next three, like I said, and that's why the reason I have the Chargers at -3 and the Chiefs at -1. At the number 2 position, gotta have the Bills. Good team. Obviously, glaring weakness with a subpar defense, like I talked about before. But you got Josh Allen, the best quarterback on the planet. You got the luck of the Chiefs maybe switching to you, but again, who knows? And again, then just at number 1, you got the Baltimore Ravens, best roster in the league, or best roster in the AFC. You got Derrick Henry, you got Lamar Jackson. They're going to put up 30-plus points every week with that combo, and I just think that the reason that they're above the Bills, in my opinion, is that gap is the defense. And I think that with you got Kyle Hamilton there, you got Jair Alexander, you got the kid they drafted, you got Roquan Smith, you got Derrick Henry on the offense side of the ball, you got Zay Flowers, you got D-Hop who's turning back the clock, we got Lamar Jackson. I think there's obviously a roster advantage with the Ravens. The Bills did pull it off in Buffalo, but I just think the defense puts them a step above the Bills and the rest of the AFC. And until playoff time, I think Baltimore really holds that spot until I see Buffalo's defense shut down an elite offense. I just got to keep it this way. But there's going to be tons of movement. I think this is kind of where we're at. You got the top 3, and you got a little bit of gap between them and the rest of the AFC. We ended it off with Baltimore at number 1 at -5, Buffalo at 2 at -4, the LA Chargers at 3 with -3, Kansas City Chiefs at 4 with -1, Indy, Denver, and Cincy tied for 5th at even par, Pittsburgh, the Jets, Texans, and Jaguars tied for 8 at +1, New England and the Las Vegas Raiders tied at +2 for the 11th spot. At 14, the Cleveland Browns at +3. Tied for, I have it at 15 and 16, but tied at 15 is the Tennessee Titans and Miami Dolphins at +4. But that's about it, guys. That is a wrap for episode 3 of the FTN Network podcast. Subscribe, leave your comments below. If you want to get on, hit me up on socials. My tag or my Twitter handle and my Instagram handle is right there. Hit me up. I'm more than welcome to come on. Listen, if you're in, I know I've heard murmurs of guys getting mad at the Lakeshore Cup Power Rankings. Come on, defend your team. I will be more than welcome to talk ball and talk fantasy with y'all. But as always, guys, subscribe. We're getting on to all your favorite streaming podcast networks where you get them. So follow me on there, subscribe on YouTube, and that is it for you guys. Enjoy week 3 of the NFL weekend, and we will get back to you guys next week with new AFC Club House rankings, Lakeshore Cup Power rankings, and a few more topics that I want to touch on. So until then, guys, subscribe, enjoy your weekend, and go Bills.